Welcome back. Congress hammering out key provisions of President Trump's big, beautiful bill, some of which could result in funding cuts to welfare programs. The president requesting certain cuts from the Housing and Urban Development Department, including more than $26 billion in state rental and grants and over $700 million in other assistance programs. Joining me now is Housing and Urban Development Secretary Scott Turner. Mr. Secretary, thank you so much for being here. What are you expecting in terms of these welfare cuts, and where do you expect the biggest cuts to be made?
Well, good morning, Maria. Thank you for having me. It's great to see you again. You know, the president, my colleagues from the Senate and the House, this administration, we're all taking inventory and getting our fiscal house in order. As you know, the previous 4 years before we came, there were no checks and no balances, no transparency, and a lack of good stewardship in America's budget and America's fiscal house. And so, along with my colleagues on the Hill, we here at HUD are taking inventory of every program so that we could be sufficient and effective in serving the American people. This is the first step when you talk about the skinny budget. It's the first step of many in this process. Our job here at HUD is to maximize the budget that we do have and make sure that we're serving America's people in the critical programs that we have.
So do you expect cuts to those welfare programs, and how significant will the cuts be? Where specifically are you expecting the cuts, sir?
You know, I think not so much cuts only, Maria, but also how we administer the programs. One thing at HUD, we're very mission-minded, and we understand, you know, our call here to serve the American people. We'll see when the budget comes out what we have to work with. Our job is to maximize this budget and to make sure that we're serving America's most vulnerable people as it pertains to housing and homelessness and disaster recovery.
Mr. Secretary, you co-wrote a New York Times op-ed along with RFK Jr., Brooke Rollins, Dr. Oz. You suggested that there should be new qualifications to receive the welfare benefits. You write, able-bodied adults receiving benefits must work, participate in job training, or volunteer in their communities at least 20 hours a week. So tell us about that. Is that a way to significantly cut back? How can the administration enforce those policies to reshape the welfare system?
Well, Maria, I think it's a paradigm shift. You know as well as I do, work restores dignity. Yeah. Work brings pride. You know, and our welfare system deviated from what it was intended to be from its origin. It was intended for the most vulnerable, to the most needy in our country. But now we've created welfare as a lifestyle in our country. And you know, America is not a welfare state. America is a country of opportunity and a country of entrepreneurship. And so this will help us to encourage able-bodied people in America that are receiving government subsidies to work. You know, there was a study that came out, almost 50% of households that are receiving HUD funds, almost 50%, not one person in that household is working. And that has to change. That culture, that paradigm has to change. At HUD, this is common sense compassion. We want to help people and invigorate and encourage people to work, able-bodied people to work. We're not talking about the elderly. We're not talking about those that are disabled. Able-bodied, able-minded people that are receiving HUD funding should go to work to restore dignity, Maria. Maria, you get up early in the morning and you work, you serve. And so we want to give other people and encourage others the same opportunity. And so this is a great step forward, working with our colleagues at Agriculture and also Health and Human Services and Dr. Oz to be kind of a catalyst to change the trajectory of the lives of people in our country.
I think it's a great point that you make, Secretary, because work is empowering. And, you know, it also checks the box of a way to reassess these programs and perhaps save a little money where you're looking to actually align with colleagues in the House and Senate trying to come up with spending cuts for this big, beautiful bill to get the president's agenda passed. But you make the right point, and that is work is empowering. Why not, you know, align with people so that they can see the benefits of that rather than just being so dependent on government? President Trump has said many times he wants private enterprise to rule the day in this economy.
That's exactly right. And Maria, you know, you hit it on the head. I was visiting one of our public housing authorities, the residents that live there in a city in our country, and I was visiting with them about the deplorable conditions that they live in one of our public housing authorities, which we're taking inventory of all of those as well. And I heard the story, the testimony of one young lady said, I have been living in this public housing authority in this project since 1973. That means she has been living there since birth or shortly thereafter. And so because of that, her mother, probably her grandmother, raised her there. She's living there. Now she's raising her children there. And so that's the paradigm that we want to change. My parents, neither one of them went to college, but they both instilled in me a tremendous work ethic, and it has made our family stronger. And that's what we want here, not just at HUD, but from the administration, our country overall, is to have young people to see those coming before them working hard, providing for them families, because if young people are incentivized to work, that will change our culture. It'll change our workforce. It'll increase earnings, increase family stability. And so that's what we're after here at HUD. That's what the president and our administration is after. And Maria, I believe that it is beneficial for the posterity of our country, the rehabilitation and the reconciliation of our families.
No doubt about it.
I'm excited about it.
Secretary, it's a great point. It's a great angle to be focused on and has so many impacts. Thank you, sir. Great to talk with you this morning. Secretary Scott Turner. Quick break and then summer travel season. Well, it's right around the corner. Many Americans ready to